right. Welcome back. We are so glad that you are joining us for this third video in our series. If you missed either of the first two, we started by just wanting to put together this video series to help families who are asking the question, should I homeschool? And what are all of just the little considerations along the way? We're huge advocates of homeschooling. We love it. We want to help families with Learnwell. We have been helping families for like the last 8 years or more to be able to homeschool. But it's really important for us to approach this in a holistic, authentic way and to help you guys do the same. So if you have questions about that and you missed the first one, go back to check video number 1. Video number 2, we did quite a deep dive into curriculum, not so much specific curriculum, but how you are going to have to evaluate and think through curriculum. That's really our goal. We want to be able to equip you to be able to do this and to have confidence in being able to homeschool, because you can do this.
Absolutely.
So in that vein, we are going to dive right into some of those logistics, some of those these feel like the really practical steps. We mentioned a little bit in the first one, like those creating schedules. You mentioned there's a couple different types of schedules that we have to create. We also talked about or alluded to spaces and considering those spaces. So those are the type of things we're going to get into. So Dr. Shipman, what are some of those different types of schedules that families are going to need to think through once they've kind of figured out their curriculum?
Yeah. If you're a little bit of a calendar nerd like me, this is really fun, but I understand apparently this isn't fun for everyone, so it's okay whether you find this fun or not. I always recommend that families do that as you're planning out your year, print off a blank schedule. I go to Google Calendar, I turn all my other calendars off and just print month by month. And just go ahead and think about, when do we want to start? When do we want to wrap up? When do we want to take some breaks? And just figure out the rhythm of the whole entire year. And then I think it would be really good at that point to sit down with your curriculum and just do some really simple math. None of this is carved in stone, but you do need a game plan. You need to know, okay, so we're going to homeschool for 35 weeks. This is our plan. And we look at the math curriculum that we've chosen, and there are 14 chapters. So let's figure that out. So I picked some really odd random numbers, but maybe about numbers. 2.5 weeks per chapter is maybe about the pace we want to go. But then I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive and say, okay, look, chapter 2 has this many sections and chapter 3 is kind of short. So however your curriculum looks, you want to just think about pacing out the year so that you don't get to March and say, oh dear, we've done the first quarter of our curriculum. You want to really be intentional with that pacing. And then, so we have our kind of our yearly planning, our curriculum planning, and then just the week by week. And so what a lot of really great homeschoolers do is just take some time every week. Who knows when that is? Maybe when the other parent can take over other responsibilities and let you get away for a cup of coffee just to plan things out and look week by week. What are we going to focus on this week? Where are we going to have some fun this week with this? If you have a student who is super excited about the solar system and that's what's coming up in science, is there a field trip you could take, virtual or in person? What can you add in to really enrich what they're learning about? Because homeschooling is not all about just marching through workbooks by any means. Take advantage of that flexibility that you have.
Yeah, that's the whole beauty. That's probably why a lot of people have come to homeschooling is to get that kind of flexibility. So
and think about just then your day. What is the schedule of your day? Most kids are a little fresher and learn better in the morning. Not all of them, but most of them are. And so what does a day-to-day schedule look like for your family? Do your children have chores? What might they do to just get some breaks? A lot of younger boys, but also girls, benefit so much from working for about 45 minutes and then going out to jump on the trampoline or jump rope or just get some energy.
Some gross muscle movement of activity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's so many great studies that just show that kids just need that play. They need that big motor skill, movement play, where like the inner ear, like actually changes levels and just it helps that learning so much.
Yeah. And even better if you can incorporate it into your learning.
Yes.
I mean,
that is
multiplication tables on the trampoline, right?
Oh my gosh.
It's great.
Could there be anything better? Absolutely.
So yeah, there's a lot of planning involved to do homeschooling with intention and to do it well.
And there's a lot of, I mean, even just considering family schedules too, because we talked about, one of the gifts of homeschooling is that your kids can really dive deep into things that they love, which means sometimes we have sports leagues or gymnastics or dance or things that are super competitive, and you might have to spend a lot of time at a gym or in a tournament or, in practices. And so thinking through those weekly schedules of, this day is going to be, completely.
Or this is going to be a heavy week, so we're actually going to slow down a little bit this week so that we're not
be flexible with that.
Frenetic.
Yeah, absolutely. So zooming out a little bit, how does one go about mapping out that yearly schedule? You mentioned like you kind of, is it really just that simple of looking at the map? Are there other tools, other things that can kind of be helpful in kind of creating that yearly schedule?
Well, I mean, for sure, just doing that simple consideration of each of your pieces of curriculum, especially if you're using, things that are pre-published, which I think most people starting out do. Sometimes after a time, experienced homeschoolers move away from that and create unit studies or something like that, in which we're going to discover everything about one historical time period, and we're going to try to embed all of our subjects into that learning. That's a beautiful thing. If you are just starting out, please don't put that level of pressure on yourself. It's totally fine, and we really encourage you to use pre-made curriculum. And so the beauty of that is, yes, I would do exactly what I recommended with every piece. Look at, about how long are we going to spend on each math chapter, or if you consider reading, and we definitely want you to make reading a big part of your homeschooling, think about how long one child might need for a particular chapter book versus another child, and we want to be right in that. We call it, in educator speak, the zone of proximal development. We want it to be challenging for them, but not too challenging.
Right.
And not too easy. So we want to find that sweet spot right in the middle and think about, for child number 2, I can't get her enough reading material, and as soon as I hand her this book, she's probably going to finish it in 2 days. And child number 3, that may not be the same. And so you just want to create that realistic schedule throughout the year. And please sprinkle tons of grace on that as you do that. We want you to have a big picture plan, but then we want you to also acknowledge, we did not expect that the grandparents' visit that was supposed to be 1 week was 3 weeks.
Going to turn into multiple.
And so God bless them. And so things looked a little different. And so we're a little bit, behind schedule, but it's okay. It's okay.
And this doesn't need to be anything super detailed or super
not that particular plan.
I mean, if you're a spreadsheet person, a spreadsheet would be fine to be able to kind of
on the calendar.
Or just on a calendar, whether you use digital calendar, physical calendar, just kind of penciling some things in. Anything that can have that flexibility of you can kind of move some things around as life happens. Life always happens.
It happens.
It always happens.
So, and that might be an encouragement to leave a little bit of margin.
Yes.
In that. So in my previous example, we homeschool 35 weeks and our math book has 14 chapters. Maybe we just think about each chapter taking about 2 weeks, and then we've built in some margin there.
You've got some wiggle room.
If one chapter, if we get stumped on a concept and we just, for this child, we need a little bit more time.
We just need to sit in it.
That's no problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Rarely do we have the problem where we finish things ahead of time, like that everything just moves super fast.
And there were no interruptions.
And there were no interruptions.
Yeah.
So being able to plan with kind of that.
Ever? I have 2 girls, so forgive me. We have bad
2 more
days.
girls. Sometimes it just happens. So it just happens. And so leaving lots of that wiggle room will give you the opportunity. We really don't want to get to summer and be like, oh,
oops.
guess we're going to do summer school this year because we didn't actually finish what we thought we were going to finish. So that wiggle room is really key. I really, hearing you talk about kind of the theoretical, though, made me think there are some other considerations for planning out that daily schedule. Because in your hypothetical, you were talking about, student one, student two, student thing. And that's a real consideration for a lot of families.
Right.
Some people will approach homeschooling and they may only have one student, or they're only homeschooling one student.
Right.
And that's great. You might still have other family members to consider, and like who needs to be where when, and so there's like some moving parts in your weekly or daily schedule for that. But a lot of families that homeschool are either homeschooling multiple families or have littles.
Yeah.
We might have baby schedules to be aware of, or really lovely, super fun toddlers that just like to be in all the things and to have all the attention.
Right.
Or we even talked on the first week. Sometimes if we have aging parents or if we have other people that we're giving care to.
Right.
Those are very real considerations in those. How do we structure our day? So would it be right to say there's kind of a balancing act of what are the family needs and the time requirements? Because homeschooling a K or first grader is going to be much more time consuming than an upper elementary or middle schooler.
Absolutely.
Just they can't read yet. You have to sit there and read everything to them.
Right.
Versus so you've got to balance kind of what are those family needs, but then you also have to balance that what you were talking about with how that student learns best as far as, are they fresher in the morning? Are they, do you have recommendations to think through scheduling the day as far as subjects and how kids are wired? I feel like that's a question that I get a lot of. What order should we do our subjects in, or what should this look like? How long should we spend on each of these things? Can you talk about that a little bit?
For sure. That is a much bigger question the younger children that you have.
Yes.
Once you get into middle or upper elementary, I think it's a little easier to be more flexible, but when you're locked in with a baby schedule or a toddler schedule, it's a little tricky. And for sure, when you're homeschooling a student who hasn't yet learned to read, because they will require your side-by-side attention. And so you have to figure out, if you're homeschooling multiple children, how you might approach that. And so I can use an example from our early days in the Shipman house of homeschooling. Luckily, I had one early riser, and she was the younger one, and so she would get up early, and we had a time that we would meet at the table. That was our deal. She was always up before me. She's a really early riser, and so I was able to, before her big sister was up or joining us at the table, I was able to work on like phonics with her and some of those basic building blocks of education and a pretty stress-free environment. And then once older sister joined, I had to have some things on hand for my sweet kindergartner to do while I helped big sister. And so that might have been a time that, and I did create a I don't want to say rigid, but a pretty strict schedule of, while I am helping this student or this child with math, you're going to go do your chores, and if you finish your chores early, here are the things you can do.
That's a great idea.
And so, but especially when you don't have a reader, they can't really work independently without you. Now, once they're reading, that's
a game changer.
Hallelujah. Yes. Because then you can actually swap out, work with children at different times. Anytime that you can work with your children together, which social studies and science provide a really great opportunity for that.
Yeah, because you can
That's
differentiate
fantastic.
activities.
Absolutely.
If you're studying plants,
Right.
Your older student might be able to diagram differently versus younger student, but you can kind of learn similar concepts and just adapt.
Exactly. One other little note, if you do have toddlers, this one I will send you to Pinterest. I said don't look up homeschool spaces on Pinterest, but there are so many great boards for like toddler boxes, and really the idea is that you have some little hands-on activities for your toddlers that only come out when big brothers and big sisters are homeschooling. And so they're novel, they don't get to play with them all the time. We call that school for them. I think that's really effective because they feel all grown up. And so here's your box. And so there's some really effective ways to try to entertain toddlers. I mean, toddlers are awesome, but there is no perfect system.
No.
There's no perfect way to keep toddlers completely engrossed and occupied and let you finish everything at the table with your older children. But it gets you a long way towards doing that for sure if you have some really intentional plans for them and some activities that they can do that they'll be excited about.
Yeah, I know when my girls were little, we would have kind of those boxes, and I would switch them out. I just make a whole bunch of different bags for like the month, and then just have them tucked away so that we could kind of pull them out and they were fresh. And then once a month, they could come and refresh and get some more ideas. But Pinterest has all kinds of things. I mean, even like dollar store finds, like how to make 30 busy bags for under $8, or I mean, crazy stuff. So lots of great resources there. Speaking of resources, this is a little bit daunting. There's a lot of, it sounds like math involved in the scheduling, and a lot of just kind of figuring out all of those pieces, which can still, again, feel like a lot. Homeschooling can be a lot, but that's okay. You can do it. And we are here to help. One of the resources we're going to give with this video is actually a PDF of a whole bunch of worksheets and resources, and that are going to help you think through those yearly schedules, kind of breaking things down, that are going to help you think through those daily and weekly schedules, and just kind of plug and play so that you are not having to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up from everything from scratch. There are lots of resources that have already been created, and you should absolutely take advantage of what is available to you. So that is all going to be linked and available. So if you have questions or you can't find it, I'm sure our contact information is going to be somewhere. You can find it and let us know. We'll send it to you. Breeze through a lot of scheduling stuff. That still leaves a couple other of those like nitty-gritty nuts and bolts that anybody considering homeschooling needs to get into. Let's talk about those homeschool spaces. So Pinterest for toddler boxes, no Pinterest for homeschool spaces. Okay, so
because I have been there and done that. I have what is essentially a large storage room in my house that is painted a beautiful blue. I'm not kidding. It has a really cute little argyle pattern on it that I had fun doing it.
That sounds
really
fancy.
Pretty. And I will share with you for 1 year and 2 sweet little desks that worked beautifully.
Not more than that, huh?
Nope. Still there. Has some shelves on top of it now. But we used different systems different years. I mean, it depends on the age of your children. It depends on what else is going on in the house. It depends on the space that you have available. But I will tell you, our most effective and long-lasting system was one basket with different colored folders. My one daughter picked out 4 or 5 of one color folders. Another daughter picked out another color of folders. And we had those together in a box along with a couple of their books. And that basket just stayed off to the side in the kitchen. We met at the kitchen table. I pulled the basket out, and honestly, that worked fine.
So what I'm hearing is you don't actually have to have a lot of space to be a homeschooling family.
You absolutely do not. Do not think that you have to go to your the teacher store and buy all the posters with all of the math facts and all of the grammar. And I mean, if that's something that brings you joy and your kids love it, then go for it. But that is absolutely not necessary. We just found that quickly over time, my girls didn't like being in their own little space. They kind of wanted to be out in everything, and so we found the kitchen table to be the most effective. And now they're older. I have one in high school and one in middle school. They do have desks in their rooms. They work there sometimes. Yesterday we worked out on the screen porch together all day. And so nice. It's really nice here in Georgia yesterday. So we mix it up a little bit. But I would say one thing I haven't mentioned is just I really think that schedules are important. Loose schedules. Please don't, like 10:30
almost more like
11:14.
Routines or like rhythms, like having the consistency and
there's just a predictability in that for children. And I think that the longer that we find this in schools too, the longer that students are in a routine and a rhythm, you see behavior problems decrease. You see that resistance decrease a bit. When they just are able to predict. I know what's coming next. For me this year, what's working is math first and then language arts, and then there's some security in being able to hang on to that. But I will say it's a lot of fun as a mom on like a really cold, rainy day, let's say in January or February, to just bust that wide open we did that several times. In our house, I put the names of all of the rooms of our house, including closets and bathrooms, in a basket. And for every subject, we drew a new place.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
We did, math in the bathroom and on the floor, and we did social studies in Mommy and Daddy's closet. And it was just fun. It was just a fun way to mix it up. But it was only fun because that wasn't normal.
Right. If you did that all the time, it might just be chaotic.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So consistency is important to a degree, but also still keeping that flexibility, because that also builds resilience in kids.
Absolutely.
We don't want to do it all the time.
And we do want this to be fun.
Yes.
Every moment is not going to be fun. Let's not be unrealistic, but we want this to be fun for your family.
And it's a good point that you don't necessarily have to do all the things in the same space.
Right.
I have worked with a couple families before who their students just really hated writing. And so they might do most of their work together at the kitchen table, or most of their schoolwork in a particular, this is our school zone. But because there was this resistance to writing, just for writing, we got to do writing in Dad's special chair, relaxing chair during the day, because he's off at work, and so we can write there. And so then writing always happens in a different place, but it gets to be this fun special thing. So there's some flexibility even there where you can kind of maintain some consistency, some cohesiveness, but still infuse that fun and those opportunities to meet your kids where they're at and kind of be creative with what those solutions are. So that leads me to my very last kind of nuts and bolts, something that nobody really wants to think about. Record keeping. Record keeping is one of those things that, especially when you have littles, feels really superfluous, because some of our littles really want to keep all the things anyway, and so then you just have a stack of all the papers. There's really not enough room. But it actually, the closer you get to high school, becomes super important. So talk to me a little bit about record keeping. When should families start thinking about that? What kind of records are actually important versus maybe where there's some wiggle room?
Okay. Well, I would ask first, what do you need? What do you need to continue to plan well? What kind of record do you need of when you look back at the year and look forward? And so one example might be, maybe you keep all of the chapter math tests from the math curriculum. Maybe you keep just your child's final writing sample if they've gone through that publication process of editing and revising. At a minimum, maybe just keeping that, which is not a whole lot of paper, would be really helpful. Maybe some reflective pieces based on what they've read as well. Yes. And so think about what do I need next summer when I've developed summer amnesia and I don't remember what it was like to be in the thick of things, and I have 3 children, and how did he do on fractions and that kind of thing. Just think about what you'll need in the coming year. And then I will say beyond that, if you're concerned about what is required, here in the United States, that is a state-by-state requirement.
It varies
a lot.
And so
unfortunately, we can't develop a handout for here's exactly what you need to keep.
Fortunately, there are already websites that do that for
absolutely.
You. And so we will put that we'll link to that in the notes in the description, so that way you can figure out exactly what your state's needs require.
Right. And then you asked about high school. Wow, that could be a whole other video series for sure, developing a high school transcript.
Really could.
But in general, you'll want to keep work samples, again, math chapter tests maybe, that can verify that, okay, we have met the objectives of Algebra 1, for instance, or something like that. But as for what you would need to keep or ever present or anything like that, that just varies really wildly. There are lots of great resources online about just developing the actual template for a transcript, and I don't feel like we need to reinvent that wheel at all. No. But don't be nervous about that.
No, and it really does depend on what your family's goals and needs are.
Right.
Because there are, if your student is wanting to go to a college in the United States, what is going to be required as far as record keeping, what's going to be helpful for them to be able to get into a university stateside is probably going to be different than if they're wanting to just be an entrepreneur and just, start their own business, or depending on what other options they have after school. So Lots of variability there.
Yeah.
All right. So many good things. So many good things.
Yeah.
So even with all of these worksheets and resources that we're giving out just to kind of make this process easier, it's still a lot to take on. It's going to require some time.
Yeah.
So in light of that, we have one more video coming because we want to help you share some resources, share some opportunities for you that are going to really help with those time constraints, help take some of that burden off of you if even with these resources it just still feels like a lot. So stay tuned. We're going to do that next time. And otherwise, we'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.